Hello and welcome to SaltWire today for Tuesday, January 17th. I'm your host, Kate Walker. The Auditor General released her performance audit of the Metropolitan Regional Housing Authority today, which revealed a series of conflict of interest issues with the most senior employee at the authority. Kim Adair says the province needs to ensure that conflicts of interest are avoided, declared, and addressed to maintain public confidence in the administration of provincially owned housing.
The audit found Metropolitan Regional Housing Authority's conflict of interest processes require improvement, as the director, the most senior employee at the authority, was in conflict prior to and after the awarding of security services contracts. We also found the director did not disclose some of the conflicts at all. The director oversaw the largest housing authority in the province, responsible for more than 4,000 housing units and 90 properties throughout Halifax Regional Municipality and Hants County.
The audit reveals the director was involved in the tendering of security services worth over $1 million, most of which were awarded to a contractor with ties to the director. The audit also found that the director sold personal property to the contractor during the tendering of the security services contract and again after the awarding of the contract. The AG made 4 recommendations, including that the Department of Municipal Affairs and Housing direct the Housing Authority to add conflict of interest language and disclosure requirements in all public tenders. A private clinic in Dartmouth has closed after only 6 months. The Algomed Clinic on Windmill Road space is no longer being used. Emails, voicemails, and social media attached to the clinic are no longer in service. Last August, the owner of the clinic told the media that about 200 patients had pre-registered with the clinic and that it would ease the burden of the public health care system. At the time, public health advocates and politicians expressed disapproval of the clinic's opening, saying Nova Scotians shouldn't have to turn to private care when there's a public system in crisis. There's no word on the exact reason why the clinic shut down. A Supreme Court murder trial in Yarmouth has entered its second week. Robert Rogers stands accused of second-degree murder and interference with human remains in connection with the September 2020 death of Colton Cook. The trial has heard from over 20 Crown witnesses since it began on January 10th. SaltWire's Tina Camo has the details.
A Supreme Court jury trial in Yarmouth has entered its second week. The trial is delving into the September 2020 murder of 26-year-old Colton Cook. Cook was last seen by his family on September 25th of that year. After being reported missing, his remains were found on September 27th and September 29th. This has been a difficult trial for family, friends, and supporters of the Cook family, as the testimony has been quite graphic and upsetting. The province's chief medical examiner told the court Cook was shot and experienced countless sharp force injuries that were too numerous to count based on the decomposition of the remains. Still, he said he counted a minimum of 35 wounds to Cook's chest. There was also injuries to his brain, lung, and heart. The medical examiner testified that Cook likely bled to death, but said his death was also the result of multiple injuries. The trial has heard from over 20 witnesses since testimony began on January 10th. The Crown said on January 16th it had 6 witnesses left to call before the trial is turned over to the defense to present its case. 2 other people were charged in connection with Cook's death. Wayne Crawford has entered a guilty plea to second-degree murder and will be sentenced May 30th. Keith Cisco Jr. has entered a guilty plea to accessory after the fact to murder and will be sentenced February 3rd. Cisco testified in court on January 16th. His testimony was extremely graphic as he described the injuries Cook endured, which he said were carried out by Rogers and Crawford. He said a machete and knife were used. Colton Cook's mother, Stacey Cook, says it's been extremely painful and difficult to hear the horrific details in court, but she is glad that the information is getting out so people know what was done to her son and to understand the nightmare that her family has lived through for the past 2+ years while waiting for justice on her son's behalf. This is Tina Camo, reporting for SaltWire Network in Yarmouth.
Halifax's open mic scene is slowly rebounding post-pandemic, but there's one in particular that stands out because it's in a location that you wouldn't expect. SaltWire's Jen Taplin has the details.
On the last Wednesday night of the month, something remarkable happens at this Halifax funeral home, an open mic night. It's a one-of-a-kind idea that occurred to Carolyn McQuillan when she was interviewing for a job at Cruikshank's funeral home during the pandemic.
I was missing the open mic scene, so I really wanted to get one together in a room where people could still socially distance, be safe, and experience some music together in the community.
It started in June 2021 and has been growing strong ever since. The free event is usually about 3 hours long and draws performers as young as 6 years old.
I think the response has been incredible. Musicians love playing to a quiet room with people listening. It's a safe event, it's a dry event, and it's an all ages event. People can come out if they're 14 where they normally couldn't come to a bar otherwise.
The first Cruikshank's Unplugged Open Mic Night of 2023 is happening next week. In Halifax, I'm Jen Taplin for the SaltWire Network.
It's time now for a glimpse of today's Thinking Out Loud with Sheldon McLeod. Today, Sheldon is speaking with Alison Bodner of the Pharmacy Association of Nova Scotia.
Is it getting frustrating that you've been repeating some of the same messages over and over and over, and yet the movement is slow? The advancement of those things is a little bit slower than perhaps you'd like.
I think I've been in it too long to be frustrated. I've worked with governments for a really long time, and there's a pace to evolution, and it differs depending on which industry you're in. But would I have liked this all to happen in 2011 when we were given the authorization to do all this? Absolutely. Do I understand that there's realities with, as I said, perception and fiscal realities which evolve over time? I get that, right? And now we're in a position, though, where I think all the stars kind of align in the sense of people are now, they actually understand a bit more about what pharmacy does. They see personally or feeling the need for something to change. And financially, we can't keep paying for the old system. Like even if there were 1 million doctors sitting at the border, our healthcare system would collapse under that weight, right? We have to find more efficient, more effective ways of delivering healthcare so that each participant in that, so whether that's a nurse practitioner, a physician, a specialist physician, a pharmacist, an emergency technician, whomever we're talking about, what we want to do is enable them to be able to work to provide the most value to the system, and then we need to support it with infrastructure that allows them to do that in an effective way, and that's where we have a lot of work to do. I think the willingness by all the providers to work hard is there, and they want to contribute and they want to do the best by their patients. But we need to put the systems in place to make that happen.
And for Sheldon's full conversation, head to the opinion section of SaltWire.com. Time now for the Atlantic Sports Wire, presented by Scott Squires.
It's time to reconnect. It's time to take a seat at our table for the North American Indigenous Games.
The medals for the 2023 North American Indigenous Games were unveiled at a special ceremony in Millbrook today. SaltWire multimedia journalist Brendan Creamer was there. Brendan, give me a sense of the mood in the room as the medals were unveiled.
Everybody that was in that room was so pumped. This is something that they've been trying to put off for a few years now. I guess it's just been delayed because of the pandemic. But now, since it's taking place this summer, they're having the archery take place in Millbrook specifically. Everyone was so excited.
When the moment finally came and the two artists that designed the medals were brought up and then the medals were unveiled, what was kind of the atmosphere like?
Oh, everybody was just looking at the medals, and it was kind of amazing. I believe that one of the artists was only in the 6th grade when she first kind of thought of the concept of it, but the medals themselves were really neat. Got the snowflake design with blue and yellow around the perimeter. It's awesome.
This is for the Atlantic Sports Wire, but you're also working on a story. What can you tell us about that, and when can folks expect to see that at saltwire.com?
Yeah, so we'll be doing a story, an article that'll hopefully go up on Wednesday, talking about the event. Chief Bob Glode had something to say. I believe it was the director of the games was there as well. So, expect that on Wednesday.
So we'll look forward to that at saltwire.com on Wednesday, and perhaps even a video from you, part of Kate Walker's lineup for SaltWire Today, our streaming newscast. Brendan, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no problem.
In Halifax, I'm Scott Squires for the Atlantic Sports Wire.
Join more than 5,000 young athletes from over 750 Indigenous nations across Turtle Island as they come together to learn.
Thank you, Scott. On to weather now to see what's coming up in the forecast. We're going to check in now with our weather specialist, Alistair Alders.
Well, Kate, it felt more like late March or April today compared to January in Halifax. Another day with cloud cover. We had some scattered showers, drizzle, and some fog patches, all thanks to this really stationary weather pattern that we've been under over the last several days. Now, some cooler temperatures are in the forecast later this week, but really no signs of any significant cold in the forecast. This evening, we will have a chance of showers or drizzle, and we could even see a few flurries mixing in. The temperature will be near 2 degrees. We wake up near 3 degrees on our Wednesday morning with a mix of sun and clouds, so great to see a bit of sunshine. The mix of sun and cloud continues throughout the day, and another mild one in store, 7 degrees the afternoon high. Winds generally from the west over to the southwest near 20 kilometers per hour over the next 24 hours. Now, we could see a chance of flurries as we go Wednesday night into very early on Thursday, but the next system I'm watching is a low-pressure system that is set to slide south of Nova Scotia on Friday, and right now it looks like it will bring some snow to really much of the province, but us here in Halifax. Now, just how much? Still quite uncertain at this point because it's very track-dependent. It would only take a very slight shift to the north or south to change the entire outlook, but regardless, I am keeping a very close eye on it, and I will share more updates as that system approaches. Kate.
Thank you, Alistair. That's all for now. For more extended video and full online articles, stay tuned to saltwire.com. And you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm your host, Kate Walker. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.